Well, it's a real privilege for us here on the Morning Brew to have our first guest on the show today, and it's about time we got the mayor on the program, and here he is. Mayor Richard J. Berry with Mayor City of Albuquerque is with us, Aaron, here on the Morning Brew.
Good morning.
Good morning. What a beautiful morning.
Here.
What a beautiful day.
Yeah. It is.
Yesterday was so gorgeous. Oh, man, it was just fantastic.
Part of the mayor's office run the weather as well. Right?
Well, on nice days, we
yes,
do.
of course.
When
you're the mayor of Atlanta and your entire town's frozen over, you tend to not take credit for that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Do you watch that and go, oh my gosh, if something like that happens here, what do we do?
We spend a lot of time thinking about that here. We don't have a lot of weather. We don't have tornadoes. Actually, the only tornado we ever had here, I think I was in the mall that day when it hit. Right. Remember that? Back
by the fairgrounds.
It was actually at the Coronado Mall. But we do a lot of preparation for that here. We have an emergency operations office. We think about where we're going to go, where we're going to set up. A couple of years ago when we had the big freeze, in northern New Mexico, and we sent our police and firefighters out there. We also actually set up our emergency control center here because we had a lot of folks in our city that were out of gas as well. So. You watch that and you think to yourself, what could have been done differently? Right. And Kasim Reed is the mayor of Atlanta, and I saw him on CNN that morning, and I was watching. I know Kasim, and he was, it was kind of a combination of they didn't tell people not to take their kids to school, and then everybody let their offices out at the same time, and then they didn't have enough equipment apparently. So it's just one thing after the other. But you do think about it because your number one job as a mayor. We like to do a lot of initiatives and things, but you got to start every day by picking up the trash. You got to have
the mayor's job. Right?
You got to have the grass in the parks mowed. You've got to make sure the streets are looking good. Your fire department, your police department are there for folks, and then you can start thinking about some of the things that we're going to talk about this morning. But
sure. Yeah. Have you started looking for a new police chief?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, yesterday was the closing for applications.
Oh,
so
good.
Today, actually, I'll be meeting with a national search firm and Rob Perry, our CAO, to start talking about what they've been able to do during this process as far as getting applications in, going through those, weeding through them. And what I've asked them to do is to bring to me the top 2, 3, 4 candidates, only the most highly qualified individuals, and then I'll start taking a look at that and doing my interviews. But a lot of that's going to happen this week.
Oh, wow. So that's going to run pretty quick.
It is. Chief Banks is going to Round Rock, Texas, and he's leaving on the 27th, I believe, of this month. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have a new chief on board so that we can not have a gap in having a chief. We could always put one of the deputy chiefs in for a couple of weeks if we need to, but depending on who we select, if they can give 2 weeks notice or if they need to give a month's notice, whatever that happens to be, we'll make that adjustment then.
What are you hearing? Were there a lot of applications?
Well, I've actually done my very best to stay out of the mix.
Oh, you have?
I will find this out today.
Okay.
I'll find out how many applicants we had and go from there.
So we might have a new police chief by the 28th?
Well, that's our goal. That's our goal.
Wow.
Yeah. But it'll depend on who we select.
Okay.
And if that individual can do a 2-week notice, well, we'll be in great shape to do that. If that individual has to give a month's notice, then we'll probably have to bring a DC in for a couple of weeks. But we're hoping to have it, seamless gap there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Since we mentioned the Paseo project today, how's that going according to schedule? Is it on time?
My folks tell me that it is. Now, the way it worked in Albuquerque is we, as taxpayers, went out and did a $50 million bond issue.
Right.
The state of New Mexico put in $30 million. Senator Bingaman had put in $20 million originally several years ago. And once we got the money put together for that, then we put out a design build contract. And when I say we, it's actually the state DOT that's building that project. The city's not building that because it's a federal interstate crossing a state road. Yeah. So Tom Church and his group at the New Mexico Department of Transportation are in charge of that. Kiewit, New Mexico, great firm, is building that. Same folks that built the Big I. And they're doing a great job, although it is messy and it is it does cause some congestion. But everything I've been hearing from my group, Mike Reardon and everybody at the city who runs my Public Works Department, if you will, DMD we call it, are telling me that it's on schedule, that it's on budget, and that they're moving along nicely.
Yeah, and the great thing about the Big I is they finished ahead of schedule, so keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, we're always hoping to do that. Yeah. It's always a chore to get big projects like that done. And of course, if you noticed on the Paseo project, they actually are doing all the way back to San Antonio. That ramp that they're doing, that's actually part of the same project.
That's interesting.
And then the city's doing some work on Alameda up above that, where folks had to get used to doing kind of the racetrack around that versus going straight up Alameda. But that's important because it's a storm drainage project that needs to tie into everything else, and so it has to be kind of a concurrent situation.
Very good.
Yeah.
I was talking with your new economic development guy, Gary Uppendahl.
Yeah.
And Gary's very excited about the Innovate Albuquerque campus.
Yes.
And he told me things that I didn't know or understand about that and what that's going to mean. Can you just briefly give us your view of what that will mean for the city?
One of the big trends in America right now, and really around the world, are what are called innovation districts.
Right.
And they're important for a lot of reasons. Number one, just getting people together that are entrepreneurs, along with people who are researchers and scientists, with artists included in that group, and really trying to make a place where you can mix ideas, have natural collisions between people, like bring folks together to create jobs, in essence, in the city. One of the things we know in New Mexico is that we have a tremendous amount of research funding here, but we don't commercialize a lot of that research. Nearly as much, we don't commercialize nearly as much as the states around us. So part of what Innovate ABQ is, it's an innovation central, so that we can take the research that's happening at the University of New Mexico. I talked to the Secretary of Energy, Secretary Moniz, last week when I was in Washington, talked to the NNSA, which is the National Nuclear Security Administration, talking to Google, talking to Microsoft, talking to Oracle, talking to all these people, trying to bring them into this place that's the First Baptist Church site on Central, but also have a place, and my vision for this is bigger than that even. I want kids coming in, I want them learning how to write code and to program from industry experts. We want the artists community involved, arts incubators. We want the guys and gals from Sandia, after they get off work, we want places for them to come down and tinker, if you will. We want, we just want this whole mix of people, and I think it's going to be a real special place when we do it, and it's right there on the train stop where you can come down from Santa Fe and come up from Belen. We're also going to try to work across the tracks there. There's some city-owned property where they were going to put part of the old downtown arena facility. And there's some property there that I think we could do some interesting things with if we can get the private sector to come in and work with us as far as entertainment district, places to get, to eat, listen to some music, because that's important for these innovation districts as well.
Is there a completion date or when that is supposed to kick off?
Well, the University of New Mexico Regents voted to purchase the property. The city of Albuquerque has $2 million in. Terry Laudick and the New Mexico Educators Federal Credit Union put in $3 million from the private sector. There are additional private sector dollars looking at that. The university is putting some dollars together. I think they're going to try to close on that property late spring or summer of this year. Already in the planning processes about what it would look like, what part of the existing facilities can stay, what would have to go. It's a long-term project, but we're excited to get it kicked off. It's really one of the most exciting things I think is happening in New Mexico right now.
You just mentioned a D.C. trip, and you saw a lot of folks there in the nation's capital. What was the purpose of the trip? And
well, every year in January I go back for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. That's the winter meeting. And I like the winter meeting as better than the summer meeting, because the winter meeting, you get there, it's cold, and nobody wants to be outside.
You actually work.
You actually get in the room and you get some work done. And so that's always a great thing to do. But we also try to get with our congressional delegation when we're there. Of course, we're talking about doing bus rapid transit as our next logical step for transportation. So I met with the Federal Transportation Administration, went to the Pentagon, talked about the fuel spill at Kirtland Air Force Base, got their, once again, got their reassurance and their commitment and their can-do attitude towards getting that, cleaned up. That's a long-term project, but I have every confidence they'll get that done in the way that it needs to be done. So we just really try to make, as I'd say from being from Nebraska, make some hay when the sun's shining. And that's what we try to do while we're in Washington. Come home tired, certainly.
We're going to take a fast time out. There's a new, speaking of things to do, there's a new website and service being launched called Albuquerque To Do.
Yes.
And I want to find out about that and some other vision things.
You bet.
And we'll come back with Mayor Berry here in just a moment. It's the Morning Brew with you today. One more segment with the mayor. A little later on, we're going to do, we've got a lot of theater that goes on in this town, Mayor, as you know, and we'll cover some of that with the Fusion Theater. And we'll talk about the water crisis in New Mexico in the second half of the show as well. Aaron Muffaletto and Larry Aarons, and we're going to grab another cup with the mayor, and we'll be right back.